Alrighty. Good morning, everyone. So today we have a great podcast episode for you today. We are going to be talking with Jan. So we have her. Real quick before we get started, I got my presenting sponsor that helps us keep this thing going. So our sponsor, the presenting sponsor, is Chase Group Construction. Chase Group takes the lead and becomes your one point of contact for the entire design build process. So if you're looking to build something new or renovate, they are a great commercial builder. I believe they build residential too, but they are focusing on commercial. They have a diverse portfolio of projects that range from medical to popular restaurants like Fat Pat's and Broussard and Broke Bridge and several others, and also multi-unit shopping center development. So they've built several things in Opelousas and around Lafayette. So give them a follow on Facebook if you want. Check them out. Their website is chasegroupconstruction.com. And enjoy the episode. All right. So Jan, how is it going?
Well, it's going great. I'm here with you, Ben.
Yeah. So we are no strangers. I'll just leave it at that. But go ahead and for the people that are listening and or watching, go ahead and just kind of give us a brief introduction of you and who you are. And tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, well, thank you for this opportunity. Of course, I'm running for Mayor-President of Lafayette, the city and the parish. But what got me here has been an incredible life. I've been so lucky. I moved here 40 years ago after LSU Law School. I grew up in Baton Rouge and moved here in 1983. And I've been a real estate attorney. And I'm married to John Swift. We've been married 34 years. And we have two daughters. Of course, Taylor Swift. We're Swifties. Taylor's 31. And that was the best name in the world, and it still is. But she was born in 1992. And then Kelly is 24. She's a recent graduate of LSU. And we live in Lafayette, the city, live right by Girard Park. I love being outdoors. And one of my biggest loves in my life as far as work is doing the Discover Lafayette podcast. So we met through that.
Yeah.
We were partners on TV for a while. KADN would have us on, and you would be developing Lafayette, Discover Lafayette, and we would do that one too. And that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. That was what... 2019,
yeah,
2018, 2019.
COVID.
Yeah, it was before COVID, BC.
Yeah.
So one of the funniest things, and this is just kind of the light part of the conversation because there's some things that we're going to get into. Everybody, at least at KDN, and from what I've gathered, would get confused on Discover Lafayette versus Developing Lafayette, and they would sometimes
they still do.
Yeah, they do, but it's completely different. But they're both DL acronym or the abbreviation, and it's just funny because anytime that I mention what you do, they're like, "So is she doing something the same thing?" I'm like, "No, completely different. It's a podcast." She interviews different people. I mean, I also interview different people, but she has her own thing. She's been doing it since 2017, and I started mine just a year after, and didn't even know about her podcast until we met with KDN. So,
if I can talk about that. So Discover Lafayette is a weekly podcast, and you can go to discoverlafayette.net or anywhere you get your podcast. I've done about 340 interviews now, but I focus more on the people and our rich culture. And you focus on emerging new businesses, new buildings. You do your podcast, so we might interconnect through the podcast. But you really tell people, of course, you can go check out this new restaurant. I just saw in the front when I was waiting, Parish Biscuit. What is it?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was a new place. And I'm like, oh yeah, Ben's
Parish
covered
Biscuit
it.
Company.
And yeah. So
it's a New Oil Center, so it's not far from where you are at.
Right.
Yeah.
I haven't checked it out yet, but it looks great.
So, what I kind of going into it, what, if at all, what possessed you to want to run for a public office?
Well, I've always loved public service. This isn't the first time I ran. I ran for state rep 8 years ago. But to get more into my background, I'm a 42-year Republican. I registered back when I was in law school. Ronald Reagan was in office, and we were studying the Constitution. And I just felt so proud to be an American and to look at this country with the freedom we have. And so all these years, I've been very engaged in different things that have allowed me to learn about the community. And Ben, sometimes you just know that you could show up and do something well. So I'm bringing to the table, and I'll get to why I'm running in a second, but I'm bringing to the table experience as I served as Deputy Secretary of State. So I ran the Secretary of State's office over budget and personnel. I loved that. I helped the clerks of court set up a mortgage filing system around the state and the voter system where we send in votes now electronically. Back 30 years ago or so, that was really like not done.
Yeah.
I had that experience at the state level. Locally, I've been very engaged. I've been on the Chamber of Commerce Executive Committee. I chaired the Lafayette Industrial Development Board. Been on like the Hilliard Art Museum board. I've studied our parks and recreation system. What really got me to run, though, was in 2021, the city council was having trouble getting things on the agenda with this current administration. A lot of parks have been closed in North Lafayette.
Yeah, like 4 or 5 of them,
Senior recreation centers have been closed. A lot of things were going on, and the parish council was keeping the city council from talking about things, having their own agenda. Let's say about the parks. If $1 of parish money was going into something that the city had control over, the parish council was given the authority to say, no, we're not going to let the city council talk about that. So by 2021, the city council had just about had it. They had hired an attorney to try to help them, and that attorney was sued, and it just didn't go well. So 7 of us were appointed to this Protect the City Committee, and I served as chair. And we were just trying to find out about how does consolidation work? Is the city getting
I think
the
we're still trying to figure out how consolidation works.
It's working and it's not working. Let's leave it at that. But we worked for 6 months, and we came out with this report that said, Lafayette would be better served with its own mayor.
Yeah.
Every other town has its own mayor. That doesn't mean we have to deconsolidate, but we realized that the city of Lafayette, in many cases, is subsidizing the parish. But we're all parish residents, too. Anybody that lives in Carencro or Lafayette or Dussault, Scott, Broussard, Youngsville, we're all parish residents as well as city residents or unincorporated. They live in the parish. So
we live in the country, pretty much.
Pretty much in the country, which is good. It's pretty. But anyway, I left that experience. We couldn't get information from the administration is what the point I need to make. It was like a brick wall. We asked for information on the budget so we could figure out where's the money going. Why is Lafayette, the city, paying 100% of the IT costs, let's say? So we asked for budget information, and we were given the budget, 454 pages or whatever it was. I asked for information on the allocation of costs between the city and the parish, and we were given the codes. And so we were given information, but not really, because as a citizen, it's hard to understand how all this works. You really have to dig deep and probably be an accountant. So I just walked away from that experience thinking nobody represents me. It was more personal at that point. And over the next year, I thought someone needs to stand up and give people a choice. And so on December 15th, I announced that I was running for Lafayette City Parish Mayor-President. So,
yeah, well, big step for you. You haven't ran for any public office before this, right?
Well, I did run for state rep. Yeah,
state
I
rep,
run
that's
for
right.
office.
Okay,
Yeah.
All right. There's a lot there, and I try to keep as much data as I can in my mind. But so state rep, but was that successful or no?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay. So, and when was that?
That was in 2015.
Okay, 2015.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's really fun running for office. I want to tell people the days can be long, but the people you meet and the concerns people have, when they see that you're running, I think people feel like it's a safe spot to say, what about this? They start thinking about what matters to them. And so one thing I want to bring to this is my bent for public service. I feel like a lot of decisions are being made now for personal gain. And at this point in my career, I'm not doing this for the money or power. I mean, I've been here a long time, and I'm not even accepting the $48,000 pay raise that was voted in by the city and parish councils. The next mayor-president can take a $48,000 pay raise, but that's more than the average person makes in a year.
Yeah.
And I don't want to accept that. The current salary is about $122, $123. I think that's sufficient for this position.
And what was it going to be if, let's say if you were to take it, is it like 170?
170,
yeah. Well, so I don't know if you saw my interview with Priscilla Gonzalez that
I
was
saw
running.
parts of it. It was kind of long, Ben.
It was long. It was 2 hours
was
long.
good.
Yeah, there was a lot there.
She wasn't going to take hardly any of the salary, 50,000.
Yeah, she said she was going to go down to 50,000 because she could live off of that, and she lives right now off of 26,000. I find that crazy, but
I know, because she's got a rental home that costs more than that.
look,
to be able to afford.
There was a lot of interesting situations happening, but yeah, she was thinking about taking a pay cut too. So it's interesting that you mentioned pay cut, but your pay cut seems.
It would just be the current salary.
Yeah. Well, yeah, technically not a pay cut. It'd be just status quo at that point. But it seems a little bit more conservative, all pun intended, or say reason, you being a conservative, to not take the cut, or not to take the raise, but to take the cut and leave it where it's at. So last night, I decided to, I guess, post a question on Reddit.
Oh. That's a good place.
To get some questions, to get some inspiration on what to potentially ask you, or like some situations to ask you. And I think there might have been only one person that made any sort of comment, and there's several different parts. And none of them look like an obvious question, except for a couple of them. But if you don't mind, I want to read a couple of these out. Or just read portions of this out to see and get your thoughts, so that I can get that addressed. So on the Acadiana subreddit, did you know that there was an Acadiana subreddit?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I go there just
it's
to
active.
Figure out what people think.
It's active. Whenever I did the interview with Priscilla, some people had some things to say about me there, and it is what it is, saying that I came across unprepared, and truth be told, I'm only as prepared as I can be with the information that I have, and I'm not a political scholar, so I don't dig too deep. I try to keep it as lighthearted as I can. So I'm gonna read what somebody had mentioned. The username is Lil Spitfire 75321.
Okay.
So just in case he's watching, or she, whoever. So this person puts. Basically, I ask, what are some things I should ask you, and also Monique, but Monique's for next week. So this person says, her plans to encourage actually fostering the arts and culture in Lafayette. How will we attract musicians and artists and creatives of all types to come here to visit, and more importantly, move and live here?
Okay.
So what's your perspective? What's your take on that?
My take on that is that's a great question. Spitfire, whatever the numbers are, thank you for reaching out. We have lost, to me, the last 4 to 8, Joel Robideau 4 years ago had started Create, where we would be promoting the arts and culture, education, etc. That was disbanded from the beginning under this administration. The one thing, when you think about,
were you for
Lafayette,
or against Create?
I was all for that.
Okay.
It wasn't even that much money. I think it was like $500,000 a year. The one thing that people think of when they think of our culture is our music and our artists. And on my podcast yesterday, I just interviewed Wilson Savoy from the Savoy family, Cajun band. I've had Chubby Carrier on. I've had Yvette Landry. So many artists. It can be nearly impossible as an artist to make a living in Lafayette unless you travel and you have a side gig and you scrap. So first of all, I want to reinstitute, we don't have to call it Create, but my administration will definitely have this front and center to be supporting the arts. And I'm talking about mural artists like Robert Dafford, local artists that paint, that sing, that play music, the venues. This is what people come to this region for. They come for our food, our culture, and our creativity, and we're not promoting it. And I think that's also a draw for economic development. If we showcase our community as we used to, from the administration, partnering with Lafayette Convention and Visitors Commission, Lafayette Travel is what they call it now. If we really promote our community on all these different levels, not only will the artists benefit, but we'll attract other artists. So many communities really welcome and try to draw in the artist. And Wilson was telling me yesterday, he was talking about other countries, but he talked about Norway. They actually subsidize their artists to get them to live there. So you can move there from the States and you'll be paid where you don't have to worry about.
You think we can even do that?
No, we can't do that.
Yeah, we can't.
But I'm saying there are ways that government can do things to attract artists.
Okay.
And one of them can be just being a more amenable place and helping promote all the artists. But no, I'm not saying we're going to do that. But we have not had any focus on that.
So kind of in a similar vein as far as art, culture, quality of life, because that kind of seems kind of a little bit about in that area. A lot of the pain points that I see a lot of people that are not primarily dependent on vehicles like cars is accessibility via either sidewalks or having appropriate bike lanes. The bike lanes that we have in Lafayette, the few that we have in Lafayette,
they're not very safe.
They're not very safe.
Especially Johnson Street.
Yeah, Johnson Street, like
the poles are right in the middle of the bike lane. You know what I mean? Like if you're
and it's like 2 foot wide. It's and if you veer off a little bit, either if you're a bicyclist or a vehicle, like could be bad if there's
kicked off.
Yeah. So what would you say to that? Like if somebody were to really, if that'd be their passion to improve the city, and like if you got elected into the office, how would you prioritize, or if you would at all prioritize improving the city's infrastructure in that aspect to help not only vehicles navigate the roadways and safely, but pedestrians and bicyclists and even the handicap that, our sidewalks, especially in downtown, there's some parts of the sidewalks, there's whole trees and roots that are just creating these little mountains of sidewalks. So like you can't, if you have a wheelchair, you're not getting over it.
No. So that's several questions in there. First of all, I've always been a big advocate for pedestrian-friendly walking, biking, etc. We even bought a Vespa. I got a Vespa back in 2008, and people told me I was crazy to ride that on the road.
You are?
Because all these big SUVs, I guess they're busy, but they're not all paying attention. So if you're on a Vespa, you should be safer than a bicycle or a pedestrian, but you're probably not. But I've always been a big proponent of walkability. And what I've seen is, Lafayette just doesn't have it. We've kind of built up. We built up fast, and there was not space left like in maybe newer communities where they'll have a wider walking path. So people tend to be resistant when you want to change things like West Bayou Parkway or some roads. There was a proposal years ago to make more of a walking path, a safer place on Moss Street. And some of the business owners objected, but that's a street where people die. It's a very dangerous intersection, just like the thruway is.
The north side is a place where people
are more dependent on their feet, their bicycles, and they don't have dependable moving, transportation. And
it's crazy.
It's a real problem.
Yeah, and it's crazy that the amount of people that get killed trying to cross the Evangeline Thruway.
And what else can they do, though? They have to cross it.
Right, they have to cross it. And there's like maybe 2, I think, as far as I can tell, because I travel I live in Caring Road, so I pass through the north side all the time. There's only like maybe 2 spots, maybe 3, that you can use a light to cross, and they're not super close to each other. So like,
the old Northgate Mall,
right?
Run, but you have to run.
You gotta
fast.
You gotta
not everybody
run.
Can run.
Yeah, and there's some people that are not able to move fast, like disabled or however, or handicapped. There's some situations where it could get bad. But I've seen people straddle the lines on Evangeline Thruway while traffic is flying by them because they're trying to cross the road.
I haven't seen that, but I know people
I've almost hit a guy, and I about freaked out. I'm like, there needs to be safer ways. And I know it's complicated. In a way,
because of the I-49 corridor that we're planning,
it's
not moving forward, so people haven't wanted to invest because we're waiting for that. But if you go to Baton Rouge, like they really redeveloped the downtown area, they have overhead, like across the street you can walk on a walkway. Yeah. We need at least one, if not more.
That's something that I've been like. Why don't we have a overhead walkway over the thruway where the majority of traffic being crossed over the throughway for people, pedestrians. Why don't we have something like that? It can't be that expensive.
Not compared to lawsuits for people.
Right. And or just the whole fact of somebody losing their life. That's the ultimate price.
Yeah, I agree. So all these things people talk about, but I'm someone that's more of an action, like Action Jackson. I like to kid about. There are ways we can work on these things, but it has to start from leadership at the top. So we can have more bike lanes. Some adjustments would have to be made on some of these streets and would have to be strong leadership.
Yeah.
Because people do object, especially, you go down Moss Street too. It's a real, people can speed down there. And that's why people get hit there, because they're also trying to cross the street. You have children that need to get somewhere and get from one side to the next, to the pharmacy and all. So it's a real problem. I've studied this so much. I served on walkability commissions in the past. I mean,
there you go.
We need to add amenities to where everybody has a fair shake to get around, because not everybody's driving a big SUV.
And there's people that come in from out of town that want to walk, to where they want to go.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
Though. There's no place
and
there
Pinhook.
to add.
I mean, you can't expand Pinhook. You can't widen it.
No.
That's we've lost that one. But
you think it's just Lafayette though? People, while we're talking about safety, people are not stopping for stoplights anymore. You have to wait 2 to 3 cars. I live at Pinhook and St. Mary.
Yeah.
So I know when the light changes, I'm waiting. It's the same at South College. It's the same at Ambassador. I don't think it matters where you go.
Yeah.
And we used to have red light cameras that would at least have an objective look at, you ran the red light. But people are reaching out to me saying, what can you do? I think we need to help our law enforcement with this, because they can't stop everybody.
Right.
Because they'd be running every light. People are running the red lights. It's just we've gotten where we're lax about safety rules.
All right. So
is this a can of worms here?
It can be. They got a couple of comments that came in on Facebook and YouTube.
Listening?
There's some people listening.
Okay.
I don't know how many. I'm not looking at that because I don't want to get distracted. So I do have a couple of comments, and there's still some more to take away from Little Spitfire's
good.
post.
I like Spitfire.
So we're at 22 minutes. I want to get my sponsors mentioned. This is my last set of sponsors, and then we can go cruise sailing from there. I feel like, honestly, this could probably be a 2-hour episode as well, but I know I got to respect your time.
I love you, though.
I know. So real quick, my sponsors, before we move forward into any other conversations, obviously, Chase Group Construction. I just hit that. Look, I changed up my whole layout here. Okay, so Music Academy of Acadiana. You see their logo. You see their website, musicacademyacadiana.com. They're a great local company founded by UL Lafayette Music School graduate Tim Benson. If you want to learn an instrument, they have every instrument you can probably think of. The majority of them are like piano, guitar, drums, violin, saxophone, flute, and they even teach audio production. So check them out. If you want to get into learning music for yourself or your kids or whoever, if you want to gift somebody a lesson, they're a great local company. Their goal is to make music lessons fun, educational, to help foster the next generation of musicians and creative thinkers. And again, their website is musicacademyacadiana.com. And then, try to keep this short, we have EPS, Electronic Protection Systems. Their website is eps-online.com. And basically, they're a 20-year-old company serving in the industry of home security. So smart home security. They also just recently got into whole home water conditioning solutions. So if your water going into your house is very hard, or if you have a lot of chlorine, or if it just tastes funny, these systems really filter out the water. It's an outside unit. It has a salt container. It conditions your water, softens it. Getting a shower is super cool with this because it feels like smooth water. It's weird. Ultimately, they have really easy payment plans. They're super inexpensive on the monitoring services. Check them out. Their website is eps-online.com. And also, we have a referral link that if you go to this link and contact them through our link, that we'll get some money for that. So help us out. It's link.developinglafayette.com/EPS. All right. And
you're good at this.
Man, I say them. I say them all the time. So I got 'em, but like sometimes I fumble. Sometimes I fumble. I
I
appreciate
always
that.
do at the introduction of my show. I read, about my guest, and they're always worried they're going to mess up, and
Yep.
I'm the one that'll fumble. So at least we get to edit that.
Yeah. Look, I
it's
don't
not
edit.
live.
I don't edit.
I
It's
know. Let it rip.
I look. It's bad. It's bad. So if I mess up, it's out there. All right. So
We all mess up.
okay. So obviously, there's a couple of comments that are
Yeah, public safety is what we were talking about.
okay. So James Colvin, who is a business owner in the downtown Lafayette area, he has this comment, and I'll try to put it up on the screen real quick. So, and it's not showing the full comment, but his comment is: housing is an issue. How would you encourage infill projects? Downtown Lafayette continues to have sewage capacity issues because we require developers to pay for sewage upgrades first. This makes development more costly. How do we resolve this?
Right. Downtown is such an important, draw for people coming here.
Yeah.
And so while we're talking about downtown, we were talking about, first of all, James, I want to get this in. We don't have curb cuts for people that are handicapped. And I meant to get that in when we were talking about, accessibility.
Yeah.
There was money and it hasn't been spent. Liam, I can't think of his last name right now, but
Doyle.
Doyle, thank you. He's reached out to me. There was a plan to put that in. It's been in the works on paper for a long time. And so first of all, people that are disabled have no way to really get their wheelchair and get up on the sidewalk. As far as housing, I served as assistant city parish attorney for community development here in Lafayette Parish for about 7 years. And I worked with them to help. We would buy up properties to try to revitalize neighborhoods. So now we hear about blighted properties, but there's a lot of property around downtown. A lot of properties are blighted. So we have a lot of opportunities, but downtown can build up. It's a great way to add on to existing infrastructure.
Yeah.
But you get more tax dollars. You have more people that can live there. More people means more stores, grocery stores, et cetera.
Yeah.
So I'm all about this. It's very crucial. And what I don't understand for developers to have to pay for the sewer capacity, we do have, I know they're working on things, but we don't have enough sewer capacity to add a lot more people.
Just another thing that we don't have. Yeah.
But it looks like the government's going to be paying to help somebody build where the city court is. They're putting up money for Johnny Blanchard to, put a mixed-use facility there, which is great. I love mixed-use facilities, adding more housing. But we pay for some things for private developers and not others. And so I think it can be very difficult for people that have been doing business and they just can't invest because they don't have the funds to come up with that additional sewer capacity. And that's just one example.
Yeah. Is this an issue with the UDC, the Unified Development Code? Is that in that same
I think
lines?
it's been a policy that, I've heard about this from others. I don't think I should mention names, but I've heard from others when they want to add on to something. The old system downtown, it's ancient, the sewer capacity, the underground infrastructure. So to go in and have to repair things before you can add on, it's cost prohibitive for many people.
Yeah.
So
I
I know LUS has been investing in that. I know they're doing some things, but that people are expected to come up privately. So,
well, you mentioned building up. There was a high-rise tower situation that was coming.
what happened to that guy?
It was a twin tower looking thing, and it looked like it belonged on the beach somewhere. And it was actually designed by the Turquoise Place condominium tower out of Orange Beach, Alabama.
But he sold that property to the Skinners. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's interesting that we had potential of a high-rise situation that would have elevated, but it bugged the system. It bugged a lot of people's opinions on it and the thoughts of what belongs in downtown Lafayette type of thing. And, it needs to look like Lafayette architecture, which nobody really knows what that is because you really can't put a finger on it. But
it's a hodgepodge of buildings. Yeah.
So stuff like that would be interesting. However, I think the pricing per condo was going to be pretty pricey. It was going to be up there. So it's not affordable housing by any means. But James, I hope that helps a little bit. I'm pretty sure that there's more in-depth things that we can go on that. But go ahead.
And on that point, you know, so many people still make minimum wage, of course.
Yeah.
So to be able to afford an apartment even, you have to have 2 full-time jobs
Yeah.
at minimum
It's
wage.
it's hard
It's a
to
real issue.
Yeah.
Affordable housing is a real issue. Our homeless population is exploding because all of the COVID monies were being put up in hotels. We don't have a long-term plan to deal with homelessness. So we have all these competing interests, and downtown is kind of where things are converging, because that's where the homeless traditionally are.
Well, yeah, because
but as
I mean,
they're being run off, though, they're now spreading out south. I heard there's some issues with around Gilbo at Johnston.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're moving people away, you know, nobody wants people camping in their backyard. So the problem is growing. And I've met with the police and different people that are involved in all this, and we really need to come up with a comprehensive plan, because the police don't have enough resources. We need more mental health professionals. We need to look at not just affordable housing for citizens that are working, but also to help people get back on their feet. So I'm aware of these issues, and you can't tackle these things on day one, year one. But there are ways that communities work to get HUD grants, you know, housing and urban development. I helped with that when I was an assistant city parish attorney. We would get grants to work on revitalizing neighborhoods, but you can get different kinds of grants, Ben, to work on some of these projects. But it takes a long-term vision. So we've got people now just trying to work within the system, but we need to have a bigger picture on how we're going to grow as a community.
Right. And then James responded that it
Oh,
helped a
what'd he say?
little. He said it helped a little. Obviously,
Did he say, like, he probably wanted more specific about what
James,
he
if there's
did?
something more specific that you can help with that, we appreciate that. I'll move on to the next question that came into the comments. So Logan Walters asked, first of all, he says, "Hey, Jan."
Hey, Logan.
He says, "Can we transform Lafayette for the better when it comes to zoning? Many young people can't afford a 3-bedroom home in the city, but also can't find smaller, affordable options." And we kind of briefly talked on that. But like, what are your thoughts around that?
I agree with that concept. Right now, I don't know the numbers. I'm not an expert on the UDC, but I think in single-family residential, you have to have a pretty big footprint, and you do have to have these larger homes. So people that are in, 20s, 30s, even some people going into their 40s, owning a home is not going to happen for them. Yeah. Years ago, I had this dream. You know how there used to be boarding houses and people could share space? I had this picture of something like Logan's thinking about, where you could have special developments where you'd have smaller homes where you'd own your home, but it would be like a planned development, but just smaller homes where you could get in there and be affordable. Like you could have, it's not a tiny home that's like 325 feet, because I've done work on that. We don't have that really in Louisiana. But I studied it because of Sheree Aber, one of my clients. They were trying to start a tiny home business. But something like a 800,000 square foot or so, but have developments where that would be legal.
Yeah.
But right now, I don't think it's really in the plan to allow that. There are some places in Lafayette where it's not single-family residential, but we'd have to look at where pockets are available. In some of the older neighborhoods, this might be a good solution. If there's blighted properties, rezone it to where you could have these smaller homes, and then you would not only revitalize neighborhoods, but you would make it affordable. It would stay affordable. But when you've got a home that's 3 bedrooms, 2 bath on a big lot, I mean, it's cost prohibitive. I don't think, my husband and I have been lucky because we both became lawyers, waited to have children. So he was able to save. I was always the one that was, probably spending on shoes and purses until I got a little bit more mature. But when I think about young families that start their families young, they start having children.
Yeah.
Just getting through the month on your paycheck is nearly impossible, especially with inflation. So to think about saving to buy a home, and in the average home now, you probably know better than me, like median home, like 300 something.
So the average home price now that people can barely afford is $200,000.
Yeah, but that can be tough to find, I guess.
In Karen Crow, there's a lot of neighborhoods being built, and the starting price are
range.
in that $200,000 range. Now, that was some of the signage went up a year ago, so it could potentially be in the 190s or 210s. I doubt it's going to be going lower. Typically, real estate doesn't go lower unless the market just really crashes. But
I think I was looking at the average home sale, like that's everybody. Like
the average, because you have some people who have some really expensive homes.
I know Karen Crow's building, like there's going to be a lot of new homes going up. The mayor
so
said
all
that.
of those are in the quote unquote affordable range.
That's a lot, though.
Let me tell you. So in 2015, when we were looking to move into a house out of an apartment, we were paying at the apartment like $750, $800. That's actually good. That was a 2-bedroom. That was a decent price. Because now, if you're going to go try to find a 2-bedroom apartment, you're paying at least $1,000 to $1,200, and that's usually a older property. If you want a newer property, like all these fancy luxury apartments that are going up near River Ranch and Youngsville, those are starting anywhere from $1,400 on up. I mean, close. Some of them are almost $2,000 for like a 2 or 3 bedroom, which is wild.
It's so expensive though to build because building materials. have gone up so much.
Everything's going up, and you really can't fault them. But it's wild that the minimum wage and the income doesn't really go up that much.
No.
So gig economies have really exploded. I think it kind of like softened a little bit with food delivery stuff. But yeah, just finding extra work and feeling secure has gotten a lot harder. And people on the internet, and I'm not going to say exactly where, almost compare where we're at right now to similar to the Great Depression as far as the relationship between the government and money and housing costs. Like they compared percentages and like how far off we are where certain metrics line up that would declare either recession or depression. And we're pretty much in a quote unquote silent depression, which is weird. Like I never would have thought we'd ever be near that point, but it's a wild situation that we're in. So I don't know. You can't obviously fix that with a magic wand, but
people are living on credit, to be able to pay for things like to get to go to the movies, let's say, or just extras can be out of people's reach.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I'm living it, so it's like I have to.
Most people are,
Yeah.
But I think to build more affordable housing, the average contractor, they need to make a profit too to stay
Everybody
in
wants to
business.
make a profit,
So
right?
some of these things will have to be partnerships to try to get, government involved, to at least look for locations and help people build affordable housing. And I'm not talking about Section 8. I know people worry about that kind of affordable housing, but to have options. I think we're going to have to be a lot more creative. The world has changed so fast. It seems like COVID just kind of, first it shut down society, and then as we emerged, prices skyrocketed, inflation is killing us, and people still need to be able to pay their rent, buy groceries. And when I go into Walmart to buy, I shop at Walmart, things have doubled, tripled, and that's at Walmart.
Yeah.
Basic necessities.
So my wife, she loves her soda. Like for dinner and for lunch, she likes drinking a soda. And so just a 12-pack of soda.
Oh, gosh.
Not the off-brand version. Like if you want the name brand version. I mean, we were paying on average before COVID, BC, miss you, $5 a 12-pack. That was high.
Yeah.
$5.99 was high.
Right.
Now?
50 cents each. Yep.
Now it's $8.99 for a 12-pack on average.
Yeah.
Like, you're not getting a discount at Walmart. I like going to Super One or Albertsons.
They all
like
have prices depending on what you're looking for.
They have different prices. But like we try to find the buy four, get this price. Like we've actually been able to pay for the past few months $4 and change for a 12-pack, almost $5.
Yeah.
And buying 4 of them, you pay $20, you get 4. But if you were to pay them all outright, it would be $40.
Yeah. But for her, she needs to have that.
She has to have
special.
I know. It's a bill, essentially.
I remember growing up, we didn't have money. I mean, my family, it was, scraping by. And my dad would buy Czech Cola from Winn-Dixie.
Oh, yeah, Czech, yeah.
And I know that they have these alternative brands, but
it's not the same.
When you want the real thing.
It's not the same.
Yeah.
Look, I've I've been a consumer of the Dr. Checks, the Dr. Pepper version.
Dr. Thunder.
Dr.
Whatever,
Thunder, like, hey, if times are tough and you need the carbonation.
Is it still fizzy? I've never bought Dr. Thunder.
They're
I
all
don't buy a lot of
fizzy.
Cokes,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, we get all in Coke Zero now. We try to cut back on the sugar intake a little bit, but we're getting into some
Maybe people
tangents.
can weigh in and tell us where they shop and get good sales.
I know, honestly, man, Super One's doing pretty good. But tell us where you shop. How are you making groceries?
Yeah.
Okay, so going to there's one topic that I want to go to for sure, but going back to the Reddit user. So this person continues, Lil Spitfire. I like saying that name, and he might be they continuing the Protect the City Committee initiative. Mm-hmm. Will she continue to dig into the information that Josh's administration didn't give them when she was the president of Protect the City and still push the idea of deconsolidation?
I will continue to push getting information out to the public. So first of all, one of the tenants, I have a swift contract for change, Little Spitfire and others. I want you to know this. We're going to have open, honest, transparent government. And what does that mean? On the first day that I take office, we're going to audit. We're going to start auditing all the departments to find out where money has gone and how it's been allocated. But we're going to be not only publishing this where it's open, but we're going to have an open administration. Protect the City Committee taught me that Lafayette would be better served having its own mayor. To do that, we need to make sure that we don't upset the apple cart too much, because I think we can maintain consolidation with services. But I think Lafayette would be better served having its own mayor, but it's going to take the right mayor president to be elected, to bring this issue to the public and have a lot more discussion. Because everything that's done, Ben, the whole parish gets to vote on it. Lafayette, unless it's seceded, which it's not going to do, everybody has to agree what's in the best interest under our current charter. And so I believe that we can have intergovernmental agreements with LCG, the city of Lafayette, just like we do with the other towns. You know, like if we're partnering with Karen Crow, if LCG is, they just have intergovernmental contracts.
Yeah.
That's how people operate. So I will pursue many of the things that we looked at, but the main thing is that we need to have accessibility to information. I'm going to take away the $1 per page charge. People can't afford that. If a document is 3,500 pages and it could be transmitted free by PDF, that should be transmitted free by PDF.
I thought the information from the government was supposed to be free. I thought...
Well, it's you have to have access to it, but sometimes I'm sure it can take a lot of time to find it. But what they're doing now is attorneys will sit there if people want to go look at records. So you can't have easy access like the press. I don't know if you've ever gone in there, but they'll have an attorney watching them. So they're charging by the hour to sit there. So as taxpayers, we're paying for that. And then if somebody wants to get copies of the information, it's up to $1 a page. So it's prohibitive from people. We should be able to see what the government's doing. And this is important when you think about, you know, the city of Lafayette didn't realize, the council didn't know that the city bought property in St. Martin Parish.
Yeah,
for that spoil bank.
I've been trying to keep up with that. It's hard to keep up with what's going on with it.
Well, it's basically three things happened. Mm-hmm. A spoil bank was removed in St. Martin Parish overnight, in the middle of the night. Mm-hmm. 2 of the 3 landowners, their interests were bought. The third landowner, his interest wasn't bought, so that was stolen. They didn't get permission, the contractor or government, from St. Martin Parish or the Corps of Engineers to do the work. And the city council never authorized it. There was never an ordinance authorizing city tax dollars to pay for St. Martin Parish property. So there were a lot of problems. This came out in the most recent audit, and lawyers were hired to defend actions of our government. But if this had been done in the light of day, public access to know what's going on, it wouldn't have happened. Or if it did, everybody would have said, okay, let's move forward. It's a little dicey, but they would have known what was going on. That's just one thing. So that's part of my SWIFT contract for change. I'm going to work full time. I'm not going to have side jobs. I'm going to work, and I'm going to make sure that people know what we're doing. And we're going to be very open about it on the website. We're going to have things published. You'll be able to see what's going on. This is one of the big problems and one of the reasons I'm running, because I got so mad about not being able to get information that made sense where I could digest it.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't know things, you're going to kind of make up stuff in your head.
So
there's no reason for that.
When you mention transparency,
is that overused? That's kind of a word that's overused.
It feels overused. I feel like everybody uses certain buzzwords. I mean, it feels like there's like the common 3 or 4 words, you know, trust,
book.
Integrity, transparency.
An open book.
Yeah.
Is what it should be.
Because Josh ran on transparency.
I know.
And
it's not been the case.
It's been pretty opaque. You know, it's been a little foggy. My experience with what you're talking about as far as paying $1 per page, I haven't had to deal with that because the way that I get like building permits and all that stuff, it's online, it's accessible online. I can do that if I need to. So I hadn't really experienced with that, but I've seen the frustration with other people that are reporters and that dig into stuff, and they're struggling to try to navigate all that, and they have to go to the courthouse and look at stuff or wherever they got to go to view those documents. But transparency is an interesting one. So I want to believe that you'll be transparent because you've been transparent to me since I've known you. That word is more or less glossed over now. It's like, okay, well, we'll see. Politicians will say whatever they got to do to get voted.
Yeah, and people, at some point you have to trust. But the way that I've always run my life, Ben, I mean, I'm very conservative with money, and I'm very open, and you know that. Sometimes I'll misspeak and give away too much about myself. But this for government, this is government by the people, for the people. That's why I'm running. We deserve better leadership. We deserve it. And we can't even figure out where the waste and abuse is because you can't find out information. There's so many conflicts right now. There's so many things going on between all the drainage, like the detention ponds. One contractor, Rigid Constructors, last year got 96.7% of the work, about $57 million, that's in the 2022, with no bid contracts. So not only did we not get the right price, like Youngsville uses them, they pay a lot less per unit of work because they go out on bids. They had a master plan for drainage. We don't have that. So holes are being dug, and we don't have a master plan that shows we're even digging in the right place. These are things people don't realize because it's hard for local media, I guess, to cover everything. I think The Current has been one of the best reporting sources. If people ask, where can I find this out? TheCurrentLA.com. You can see a lot of these articles, but who has time to sit down and read 300 articles when the whole thing boils down to we have an opaque government that's making decisions that benefit a few people, and a couple of people are making those decisions. But we're not spreading work around, and we're digging holes for ourselves. Like, all of us are going to have to pay for this.
Yeah. So you mentioned construction, and this is exactly where I wanted to go next. Brown Park.
Oh, gosh. I was just out there this week.
So
it's demolished.
Yeah.
And waste of money. Like, they had just spent money on the concession stand and improvements.
So I'm
wiped out.
I'm a little on the side that I think it's a great project
to have a sports complex.
To have a sports complex for Northside to actually get something that is, for lack of better words, comparable to something that Broussard and Youngsville have, because all the attention has been brought to the south side of the parish, and that's arguably where the most tax dollars are.
Well, they all raise taxes to build their own sports complexes because they have their own city council and mayor. Right.
But we, for whatever reason, Lafayette has not been able to do or keep up with that, or hasn't had the aspiration to do that.
Our parks tax doesn't even cover what the parks cost to maintain.
Right,
so
I know.
It's a lack of money.
So what is the issue with, obviously, I know that there was facilities that were there that were not old, that were essentially mowed down and flattened.
Even the water access for the dog walk,
Yeah, I know. That's a whole other can of worms. Water. The dog park was supposed to stay operable, at least for during construction.
And the oak trees were supposed to stay there, too.
There was oak trees right in the middle, right?
They were all mowed down.
Yeah. So it is...
Not mowed down, like torn down. They were supposed to stay. That was supposed to be one of the attractions.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Somebody did make a comment whenever I made the post for Brown Park that they got rid of the trees. Mm-hmm. And I have to go back and compare the images, but
Well, you'll see it when you compare.
So
You know how I heard about this, Ben?
Yeah.
A grandmother called me all concerned because the park has been used by people that live there. There's a lot of youth that go practice their sports there.
because there's not many other places, especially in walking distance.
And that demographic is not typically going to be a part of these select sports teams that play. And so now there's no place for the kids to practice. So they're being told they have to go down to Paul Davis Park, which is quite a ways away near Oakbourne. I mean, I don't know exactly like the route, but it's if you don't have transportation, you're not going to get there.
Yeah.
So the kids are having to drop out of things. So grandmothers were calling me just saying, what's going on? And even our state rep and our senator didn't realize that this wasn't going to be done in stages. Because typically you'll do something in stages where you don't just totally wipe out everything. So now it's projected to be done at the end of 2024.
December, 2024.
So, and you know how things can go off track.
Yeah.
So we've lost an asset, and I've been told we may not have enough funding for that. I'm not an expert on this, but from what they've put aside, it could cost more than what they're projecting.
Look, and that would be unfortunate.
We need these places, I
Yeah.
know. But the kids that benefit from what we had there, they're not the ones that are going to benefit from the sports complex.
Yeah, they're missing a whole, potentially a little over a year.
Two
2
seasons. But even then, it may not be where they can use it all. So we need another sports complex. I think it's a great idea. But the way it was managed, and it wasn't transparent, again, it just kind of happens.
Kind of seems to be boiling back to that. But yeah, you're right. Typically for me, I don't get every single detail of a construction project. Like nobody tells me like, hey, we're going to, demolish this building tomorrow. Like I don't have that real time of an update unless I'm like super in touch with a contractor or whatever. And then there's only like a handful of them that do routinely message me and let me know what they're going to be doing. Right. Mainly it's because they want to be promoted, but they want me to write about them somehow or include them. But I mean, as great of a thing as it's going to be, like it's crazy that the way it's going about is making so many people upset because it could have been avoided.
Well, it's like Lafayette High. They're building a new Lafayette High.
Yeah, in stages. They're not just not mowing down a high school and say, hey, now you got to go figure out where to go to school.
Everybody got the heave-ho at Brown Park, though.
Yeah.
Surprisingly.
Yeah, I mean...
North Lafayette.
For example, what would you have done differently if you were mayor-president right now and this project were to go forward at Brown Park? What would you have done differently? And
I would do what I'm going to do with everything. We would talk first with the leaders, like have a blue ribbon committee, talk about the best way to do this.
Because didn't they have that? Didn't they have some type of meeting?
They have a Parks Commission. But I think they've given, even some of the people in the Parks Commission didn't know this was happening.
But as far as asking hey, we want this at Brown Park. Because I think they did have that type of meeting, but apparently
they didn't share information about how it was going to be demolished, though.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. But even some of the stuff that people wanted, some of the stuff is not even mentioned. Like the dog park, the final plans of the whole complex doesn't include a dog park, at least from what I can tell.
Yeah.
Because there's no mention of it on the little legend of where everything's at.
Right.
But yeah, sorry I didn't mean to cut you off. But
I think the best way to handle these things is to deal with the community first that's being affected by it. And then the elected leaders that are helping you get funding and a blue ribbon team that goes, is this the best place for a sports complex? And that may very well have been the best place. I wasn't involved in all this. But you can have that and still maintain services for people that are not going to be using it for select sports. And it did not take into account the needs of the people that live there. It's just like the city court where the judges were not spoken to. No one knew that works in the city court building that there was plans until it was announced for a mixed-use facility. The city marshal, the two judges, all the employees at city court, nobody was spoken to. And that came out in the news. I mean, it was the same kind of disrespect. How can we do this? So we're going to waste a building downtown, demolish it, have something else built there, then we have to buy another building, retrofit it, all at the cost to taxpayers. when nobody was talked to about what's the highest and best purpose. Why would you tear down city court when our parish courthouse is really in shambles, and the city court has at least another 20 years of livable life, like where you can operate without major changes, but our parish courthouse is crumbling. So I just see mismanagement. I have to be honest about it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we're running out of time.
Yes.
I want to.
Can I talk about a couple of things? Public safety. I'm immediate past chair of Crime Stoppers, so public safety is big on my mind. I'm still on the committee.
You're not on KDC talking about Crime Stoppers, son. You're not not the face.
No, I'm not the face. That's always Robin Green or somebody from the city police. But we've been through 6 police chiefs in 3 years. Mm-hmm. As of the end of 2022, Judith S. George. Yeah, typically they serve 3 to 10 years. I want to bring stability and resources to our police department, because if the city of Lafayette, if our crime keeps on increasing, that spills over into other communities. Another thing I want to focus on is economic development. We mentioned culture and arts. We need a cheerleader for Lafayette to promote not only culture and the arts, but the can-do people that live here. I want to really focus on economic development. And again, it's going to be a full-time job. I want to root out the waste and corruption that we're witnessing now. And I want this to be the people's government. I want to make it fun, where people feel proud to live in Lafayette, so that we can attract not only a 25 to 34-year-old cohort. People are leaving. Lafayette's not really growing. People if they move in, it's from parishes that are right by us. We're losing our young talent. Mm-hmm. They can be staying here. We can recruit others. We have to have opportunities for them, though. And we should be recruiting seniors to move here. This is a great place to live. Fishing, hunting,
and a great place to die.
Well, good. There you go. But it's a great place for people to move to.
Yeah.
But we have to promote the good things that are going on, and the things that aren't so good, we need to improve them.
Yeah, so, I agree.
I just had to get all that in before you cut me off.
Okay, so a little Spitfire. He has a couple of more things, and
Is
then
it new stuff or still on Reddit? You're still reading from Reddit.
So I got 2 more comments on Facebook and Instagram. I mean, not Instagram, YouTube. Mm-hmm. And then I'm still reading off a little Spitfire thing. Okay. He has like several. So, bridging the gap between police support from city government and also the citizens' distrust of the police. Mm-hmm. So this person's asking about that. You might want to touch on that. And then this person also says, what's her plan for addressing the homeless population for the city? We kind of talked a little bit about that.
Yeah, but we need to have a community-wide plan for homelessness. I've met with Catholic Charities. I've met with people that live in the neighborhoods where the homeless are a real issue, and where people are mentally ill, addicts on the street. Some people have guns. It's out of control. I've met with people, and I've seen this. We'll have somebody's meeting with one group and then another group's meeting. We need to get our resources together. But this is something, it has to be addressed, because the homeless issue is just going to go out of control if we don't do something. But, and then go back to the other part of the question. I apologize.
It looks like they say breaching. I think they meant bridging the gap between police support from city government and also training. The citizens' distrust of the police.
That's a multi-pronged issue. Mm-hmm. Our police have got to have the best training, because we have had some instances where police they used too much force. I've been to events. It always surprised me, Ben, the number of people I'd meet that had a family member that was killed. Killed. And I just didn't realize, we need to give our police the best training. I think overall we have an excellent police department. I'm very proud of our police. But they need help with people that are mentally ill. Yeah. They need more resources. We're 42 police officers short right now in the city.
42?
42. Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Right. So we do need to bridge that gap where people can trust the police, have more community policing, where the police can go to people without people being afraid. But our police also need a lot more resources. They need to make more money, and they need to have better lighting in areas that are dangerous. This administration got rid of our park police as soon as they took office. So crime is going up in the parks. Our city police don't have enough resources to patrol the parks. So that's a loaded question. There's a lot of answers there, but I'm aware of what Little Spitfire's talking about. So it will be addressed.
Awesome. Okay. So, what sets her apart I'm like stumbling on my words
You're
all
good,
day.
Ben. You're good.
Specifically from Josh and Monique. Mainly Monique, because people are lumping them together
Yes.
as they are both women, which is fun. What makes you more qualified than her, and why are you better for Lafayette and the Acadiana region?
This one is easy to answer. And,
Okay.
we are lumped in together. And, Ben, I'm going to ask you this.
Okay.
If, let's say, the mayor was a female and two men were running against a female mayor, do you think people would lump them together because they're both guys? Don't you think people would go find out about their experience? I'm encouraging people to do that. And I don't mean this in a bad way, but Monique and I are as different as night and day. I've been a 42-year Republican.
And she recently switched from
She
Democrat to
switched.
Republican.
Her family is an old Democrat family. There's nothing wrong with that. But she switched parties to be a Republican, and then she announced she would be mayor. I have been active in this community, and you've got my push card in front of you. I have served on boards and commissions that are as diverse as you can get. I have worked on my school board where my daughters went. I have worked for the Chamber of Commerce. I ran Upper Lafayette Economic Development Foundation for 10 years while I ran my law practice. So I've been a small business owner that had to make my own money. If payroll, if we need to meet payroll, you pay your employees first before you pay yourself. She's got government experience. I have been engaged in so many aspects of this community that have touched different people. And let me see my push card.
Yeah, sure.
I've got this, guys, you can go on my website. Oh boy, I've studied education,
I'll put your
Lafayette
website up
Parish
there.
Education Stakeholders Council, Boys and Girls Club. I've mentored the 705, the Junior League. I was honored by the Lafayette Commission on the Needs of Women. I served on the Republican Executive Committee. I've studied the I-49 Task Force. I served on that statewide. I chaired the Lafayette Industrial Development Board. I've been an advisor to the police department on Crime Stoppers. I'm on the SLCC Foundation Board, our community college, blah, blah, blah. So what does this mean? It's always been about public service.
Yeah.
But I've done it for a long time. I've
Yeah.
been engaged in our community for a very long time while I've been an attorney, while I've been volunteering, while I've raised my family. I'm the only candidate that can say that has truly been involved in this community and not just at the government level or just being an attorney.
Right.
And it's all been really out of love. I love all the stuff I've done, but sometimes I forget because you just don't remember.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's very
Isn't
good.
that weird? Like
I love that you've done so much for the community, whether that be volunteering or being put in position in the nonprofit sector. That can't be said for certain other former running candidates that are no longer running. Moved here recently and registered to vote the same day that qualification.
that was entertaining.
That was
though.
it was a situation. It was interesting. The
And
comment
thanks-
section was wild.
Thanks to Amy Robinson, a citizen stood up and said, I object. If you don't object within 10 days, that candidate stays on the ballot. And she seemed like a very nice person, very intelligent.
Amy
steps up.
She is fast with what she does. It's like she's good at what she does. It's wild. But it was just a weird situation, and I don't want to go too into that. But like she was pushing Jeff Landry. Anyway, she's not on the candidacy anymore. So it's a little Spitfire, and then two more questions.
Thank you, guys.
And then
thank you, Ben.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so the last statement Little Spitfire has, and this is a good one.
Okay.
You've said that you're a lifetime Republican. What sort of Republican are you in today's day and age with the most extreme politics that are out there? What does conservative mean to you?
Little Spitfire and I are going to have to talk. That is the best question because I don't think about this when I'm talking. I have it in my heart. I don't want to waste a penny of taxpayer dollars, right? So we're not going to waste money when we can be putting that towards the homeless issue or improving our parks or giving Liam and others the cuts that they need downtown to be able to get out of their vehicle and stay in their wheelchair. With that being said, Ben, my heart is for people, and it's all about love. I'm not into cultural wars. I feel that if we want to attract big companies here, we cannot be telling people how they need to be acting or what their lifestyle needs to be. I'm not one to judge because I think our creator is the one that's going to be judging us. I tell people I'm the created, and I respect people where they are in life.
Yeah.
So I do not want to see cultural wars. I will not be a mayor that is going to be divisive. This is going to be government by the people, for the people, and we have such a beautiful, diverse community. We need to celebrate that and not fear. I don't want people to live here in fear, if that's answering your question. But that goes back to my faith, because I was created.
Yeah.
And I think we're all created as God's children.
Well, there you go. That
Yeah,
was
I
a
hope that's
solid.
okay.
I think that
Like,
was a solid
Yeah,
response.
because that's where my heart is. But I know that people fear when they hear that.
Yeah,
But there's no reason. People
It's
that
just-
know me know this.
It's just today, I mean, with the way politics have come along, and if you're a conservative or Republican or a Democrat or a liberal, you are immediately put into this
Box.
horrific
Yeah.
box, this caricature of a person that is the most extreme person. So, for example, the most extreme conservative is the person holding a sign that's going to a gay pride parade that is saying Jesus hates you and stuff like that, which that you can get on the whole situation of religion and to what the Bible says, and that's a personal journey that someone can take if you have that. But that's an extreme case.
But you know, my church, I go to Asbury United Methodist Church. We're welcoming to people of all backgrounds. And we have quite a few people that identify as gay, married couples. And our congregation is loving and accepting.
Yeah.
And I follow what the Bible says, the 2 commandments. First of all, love the Lord your God with all your heart, your soul, your mind, everything. And second, love thy neighbor as thyself. And so that to me is what Jesus and God and really the golden rule that applies in my life.
Yeah.
And
I think and
you can be both. You can be like fiscally conservative, still love people.
Yep.
But I'm so glad little Spitfire chimed in.
I'm telling you, like, that was the only person that responded to my question to provide questions. But to give the other example, because I gave the conservative example of the extremist, and the other example is a very similar situation where you're going to a protest. For example, let's say you're going to stand in front of a church, or you're going to stand in front of Chick-fil-A and scream to the top of your lungs and at people that are completely oblivious to what you're protesting. And I know, and protesting is not wrong. I think there's bad ways to do it on both sides, but I think the extreme is those figures and just spewing hate. And let me tell you, conservatives can hate, liberals can hate, and they hate for the craziest reasons. And it boils down to just, usually it's personal issues.
Yeah.
For me, at least for my example, I'm not putting words in your mouth.
95%, like, we all pretty much agree on certain things.
Oh, yeah.
We all want public safety. We don't want our homes to flood. And if your home is flooding or whatever, or your road's got potholes, it's not because you're a Republican or Democrat. The mayor has to serve the whole community. But people agree on most things. But it's that little percentage where they can go off on a tangent. And I prefer to sit down with people, including people, in particular people that don't agree with what they think I'm thinking, so that I can learn from them. Because sometimes the people that disagree with you can be your best friends because they're going to help you figure out something.
Yeah.
So we don't always have to agree on 100%. But if we don't communicate, we are going to be yelling and shouting at each other. And then nothing gets done. And you miss out on maybe being better as a person and a community.
My favorite videos to see is when a couple of people that were screaming and like spewing hate actually find themselves in a conversation alone.
Yeah.
And it's almost like night and day. It's like that is the core of how people should be, is being able to sit next to each other, have a conversation, and understand what that person is going through and how they are. You don't have you don't have to agree with how somebody is living their life, whether that be, they have a whole list of guns in their house, or they're give it. Don't go in the mud there, but you don't have to agree, but you can be human and love someone and still disagree with them without wishing fear or hating them in that way.
I agree. That was well said.
I tried. Look, and then real quick, you plugged your church. I feel it's only right that I plugged my church.
What is it?
The Pentecostals of Lafayette.
Awesome.
Look, if you know that term, the Pentecostals, whatever conceptions or preconceived conceptions or whatever thoughts you have for it, you're probably right. The Pentecostals are wild.
Are they?
Let me tell you.
You know the Bible.
Let me tell you, they're wild, but biblically wild, if that makes sense. It can be a little weird to watch videos of Pentecostal churches. We don't hold snakes or nothing like that. We're not serpent holders.
Where's your church?
Right down on Johnson Street. So yours is on Johnson Street. Mine's just a little further down, going towards Maurice. And we have a good mix of people, and we've had we have a lot of black people. We have white people. We've had Hispanics. We've had gay. Of course, we have straight, because straights are everywhere. But what I love is that our pastoral team, who founded the church a little over 20, probably, almost 30 years now, right in the living room of their home, they do not preach a message that is based around hating anything. Now, they will say they hate sin. Yeah. That's the root of most churches. Anything sinful they hate. And
it keeps you from God.
Right. And whether you believe homosexuality is a sin or not, I'm not going to go into that rabbit hole. They love people. They want to see people make it to heaven. Heaven shouldn't be considered this bad place, because hell's the bad place. But we're going on a tangent. I know I got to respect your time. A couple of questions more, and then we will go. So Logan Walters has, thanks for that. Speaking of flooding, it seems there's a circular issue. People move into flood areas or flood prone areas where we build new infrastructure for increased traffic, which causes more flooding. What are your thoughts on that?
Right. Yeah, most of the growth has been in the outlying areas of the parish.
Like fields. Like sugarcane fields. Yes.
Yeah, and all that stuff. And so the more concrete you have, the more you flood. And so I know these new subdivisions are supposed to have some detention pond, built into it.
Some of them don't work right.
We all see at the end of the day what's going on. So we have a real push-pull here, because people's property rights, it's like, it's my land, I can do with it what I want. But then when people buy in some of these subdivisions, they don't realize the potential for flooding, how bad it can be. And I've seen that in Karen Crow. I remember back in 2012, this brand new subdivision, by the Chevron or whatever, where going back off of Veterans Highway, they all flooded, and it was a new subdivision. And it's just the way that the landscape was. And it was heartbreaking. But I think it was built according to what the code was there. But people do need to be aware that the more subdivisions you build, the less green space you have to absorb
the more concrete,
all that.
The more mitigation you need for the water to go somewhere.
And then it's hard for the governments to maintain services because you're spreading out. That's why I like the urban infill. But some people really they want to be out in the country.
Some people want land.
They want quiet land. They don't want to be on top of their neighbors. So we all like different things. Yeah. But that is, to me, it would be very hard in this community to tell people you can't build something. So I think we need to, if there needs to be improvements, we need to look at that code and go, well, how do we improve this more? Do the homes have to be built up?
Because the higher you build a home, the more you raise land, that water goes somewhere else in a different position or different angle.
And you affect other neighbors.
And you affect other people down the stream. Yeah. So it's complicated. James Colvin says, what do you see Broussard, Youngsville, Karen Crow doing right that can be applied as parish president and Mayor Lafayette?
I think those towns have really been growing so fast because they have a sense of identity for their own towns. Like I was saying earlier, they've all passed taxes for their sports complexes, but the property tax and the sales tax stays there in their community. And so I think Lafayette would be better served at some point to have its own cheerleader for Lafayette. It's not juxtaposed against the other towns, though, or the parish, but just have someone that's looking out just for Lafayette. But I think we can focus on what's the best for Lafayette at this point and growing the whole parish, because this is always going to be the hub city. It's, most people that live outlying areas, they're still driving in to Lafayette. And every office I go to, it's so funny, Ben, it seems like half the staff will drive in from New Iberia, Breaux Bridge. They don't live in Lafayette Parish. They're coming in from other areas. So Lafayette has really got to be focused on as the hub while we look at growing the whole parish. But those towns have been really like Youngsville-centric, Broussard-centric. They have strong civic groups, chambers of commerce. They have mayors that fight for them. They work with the legislative teams, and they're growing because they're offering people the amenities that, especially young families, what they want. So Lafayette can do that too. We have a lot to learn, I think, from other mayors. I've enjoyed going to the other city council meetings because they get good turnout.
Yeah.
Like I was in Youngsville at the city council last night. They had a full house. People were there. Some of them didn't have any business. They were just listening to the city council, and it's run efficiently, very much, full of decorum, and they're growing. They're doing it. They're doing a great job.
Look, I'll give it to Youngsville and Broussard. They're really doing it well. And then Karen Crow with the new mayor, Charlotte Simmons.
She's doing great.
I mean, first woman mayor in Karen Crow. I think there's been I think she's the 8th or 9th mayor since the establishment of Karen Crow, which is wild. She's already improved the Pelican Park.
Yeah.
Like she really done some good stuff there. I think they're going to be potentially rebuilding their center there. But
are you going to Macready show? You ever go?
I've been around it whenever it was happening. We were practicing in the fields and it was good.
It's a beautiful park. Yeah. I'm going to be serving food the night of October 4th with Dale Bourgeois.
Oh,
We're
there you go.
Have a booth, and Chubby Carrier will be playing that night. It's a great Wednesday night show.
Yeah,
it's on their calendars, and Karen Crow's kicking it. I think she said there's like 1,000 new homes.
There's a lot of new homes. That's what I was getting at.
On the books, not built yet, but coming.
So some of the neighborhoods that are partially built, they're still adding more. There's one development that's over 400 homes in it. It's wild.
So we got to improve transportation. They need more ways, but people are heading into Lafayette.
Mm-hmm. Everybody's going into Lafayette. But on the weekends, if you don't have any reason to be in Lafayette, you can do well in Karen Crow because we got our own great food establishments now. We have Fat Pat's. We have
Emily V's Pottery at the corner of University and St. Peter. That's my place to go for pottery.
But it's
Emily
just
V's and A.
Ever since in early 2010, living in Karen Crow was tough because there wasn't a major grocery store except for Champon's, and then there was.
That's what I did with Upper Lafayette. We attracted business.
So with all that work, it was great because whenever I moved here in 2010. There was nothing on that side of the interstate. And then Super One broke ground, then Walmart came, and then all the shopping centers. And now we have a plethora of stuff. We have Tropical Smoothie Cafe. We have Smoothie King coming. We have Waffle House, which I love Waffle House. Everybody knows I love it. Scattered, smothered, covered. But it's just it's really nice to see Karen Crow doing well. But I think Karen Crow still has a lot of room to grow too. The Pelican Park still can be a lot more than what it is now. Looking at Broussard and Youngsville, I mean, I'm a little envious. It's nice. I don't want to live in Youngsville or Broussard because the property is a little bit more expensive than I want, but it's nice. I kind of wish I had some of the amenities that they have. But so kudos to Youngsville for taxing themselves and getting what they want.
On that note, so many of us just kind of live where we live and we don't go look at the other towns. It's really fun, running for office. You get to see things, visiting different parks that I wouldn't go to. I never think about it because I live by Girard Park. But I mean, going to these other parks, it's a destination. You
really have to be intentional of going to those cities.
Intentional, but it's really a good place for staycation. You can go have fun right in your own backyard, including Karen Crow. I love the walking path there, but those other places have great walking paths and facilities and all. Yeah.
All right, so I believe that wraps up.
Yeah, I want to
everything.
ask people to vote. If I can ask people for their support.
I give everybody the ability to speak on that, so I can't tell you no.
All right. janswift.com is my website. You can ask for yard signs, you can contribute, you can volunteer, and find out more about me and my experience. Early voting starts on September 30th. So you have 7 days to early vote, and Election Day is on October 14th. So I'm asking you, please consider me to be your next mayor president. October 14th, Ben, is a huge day. It's UL football, LSU, Festival Acadiana, and I'm sure people have kids and soccer tournaments and all this stuff.
It's going to be a busy
so
time.
So early voting would not be a bad thing. It's like 8:30 to 6. And
so you said September 30th?
Yeah, it starts, yeah. Some people are mailing in ballots, but a lot of people like to go vote in person. That's the typical way.
Yep.
So you have plenty of opportunities, but I hope you've enjoyed this podcast. It's always fun to see Ben. Good.
Well, Jan, I thank you for coming on. There are so many more things that I think we could have dove into a little bit deeper. But
I'm going to Reddit. I'm gonna interact with
go
Spitfire.
look. That would probably be great for you. Is Reddit? It's just be careful. You will get honest feedback.
I know. I've seen it.
Yes,
yeah. I just don't go every day.
I've been a part of it, and it's hard. But sometimes you got to take it with a grain of salt. But those people they're not afraid to share their mind,
and they're informed. From what I saw,
from what I can tell,
people that are saying
there's some pretty good
things,
informed people. Yes,
they really care about that.
And Little Spitfire, man, really coming in through with some good stuff there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know who Little Spitfire is, but kudos to you.
Yeah, thank you for the good questions, everybody.
All right, well, that is it, Jan. It was a pleasure. I say good luck to you. I tell everybody good luck.
Thank you.
And we'll see how everything goes. October 14th, the official day. I think it's probably going to go into potentially a runoff, you think?
Yeah, I think so. The polls are looking good. I think it's a heat now. Like Josh isn't polling well, just to kind of end on that. He's, from what we know. So it's looking good for a runoff, yeah.
Well, October 14th is the official day. You can vote early at September 30th. But yeah, with that, Jan, I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'm sorry that we got started late and we held you up a little bit longer because we're 20 minutes over 1 hour. But
it's a pleasure.
All right. Well, Jan, have a good one and have a good weekend.
Thank you.
All right.